It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Now my shift is finally over, I gotta deal with what's mine and try to find a way to leave those tragedies behind. So I hug my 2 children, I kiss on my wife. Just another day in a first responder's life. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Flashing lights fill the air, broken bodies everywhere. Another bad dream is stealing my sleep. 'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.
Wow. Welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show with John and Sam. We are broadcasting you live in Healing Our Heroes. Man, that is such a powerful song, Sam. It really marks what we are doing in our first responder community with Healing Our Heroes. I get chills every time I hear that song.
Well, I mean, you and I, we've listened to that song. It's been our intro for so many, well, for you for so many years than me. But to see the video that goes with it makes it that much more powerful. And whoo, got to take a kind of a deep breath after that. And our guest tonight will, fully understand that, because the three of us have been in it for a long time, and you are listening to Mad Radio. We are your First Responders Network. We're dedicated to healing our heroes. Everyone who wears a badge, every first responder out there. Thank you all for joining us again on this Wednesday.
Hey, there's one part of that video that, when you say we haven't watched the video, and that's the extended version video, when he talks about the nightmares.
Yeah.
And when he wakes up from bed, I think a lot of first responders can definitely relate to that, and for him to do that. And he was a firefighter in Canada. I did some research on that, the singer. He was a firefighter in Canada. And, he really captures the pain that a lot of our first responders go and hide with their families. So,
there's a lot of pain. Hey, you and I know firsthand from listening to all of our guests that we had at a Badge of Honors Healing Our Heroes workshop this past Friday. Phenomenal workshop. We touched so many people we reached them in so many ways, powerful ways. Todd was there. Garland PD sponsored it, and had lots of back and forth, lots of feedback, and I just want to lead the show with the one piece of feedback that Todd texted me, and it was from an officer who was in the audience who said, in 28 years, nobody cared enough to ask and see if I was okay.
Huh. Well,
and when I read that, it just hit me so hard, because I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, and why we're trying to smash that stigma and bring it down. And there's so much that has come since Friday, even with research on how we went from what was termed mental health to mental illness, and how that stigma came about. Should I say, or I mean, okay, so we have psychology and psychiatry, and they didn't see eye to eye for a long time.
Right.
And, psychiatry is MD, so you can dispense meds. Psychologists, not so much. I mean, in very limited circumstances, depending on your licensure. But there was this divided camp, and this goes all the way back to at least the book that I'm reading, 1950s, early 60s. So you had these separate camps, and they operated completely independent of one another, and psychology fell in the mental health. So everything had the word health. And as we've done this workshop, and we've talked to people before, said, when you hear the word health, what do you think about? Right. And then there was this, psychology's getting too big, and the psychiatry's kind of pushed back, and a switch to the word mental illness. And then we had the DSM and how to classify things. So you had to be unwell to be classified. So now insurance can kick in many, many years later. And when you go from a term of mental health to mental illness, well, who the heck wants to be called mentally ill, right? I don't.
Of course not.
So of course you don't have that stigma. So when we listen to all the stories, like, Jeff's dad, 49 years, and he still doesn't talk. And hey, the old timers like, oh, suck it up, because that's the camp where they came from, in that shift to mental illness. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. So we are making a shift back, because it is all about being healthy, how to be well while dealing with the things that you just saw in the video, and everything that comes with being a first responder, all of the stress And so, yeah, we're going back with the health part. We got to leave the illness part because we're not ill.
Right. We're not. It's not a disorder.
Right.
You know, but what you getting back to what you said about that guy who was in the audience, the cop that was in the audience for 28 years, no one even asked him. Okay, there's an issue there where the department, whatever department he was from, is not passing off the knowledge or not making people aware of things that should be aware, and that's where Garland PD really stepped up their game and said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to host this workshop to really show people that we care, and we want to ask people through a different channel saying, hey, are you okay? You know, and if your department's not going to ask, that's a problem." So, without any further ado, I think we should bring Todd in because he has a lot to bring. Unless you want to keep him out in the waiting room.
No, I want to properly, give him the props he deserves. So Todd is currently the mental health liaison for the Garland Police Department here in North Texas, and for the past 9 years, Todd's also been a member of the GPD's SWAT team as a hostage negotiator. He's a TCOL certified mental health officer, a suicide and crisis center of North Texas certified telephone crisis counselor. I mean, the list just goes on. And he started one of the best organizations out there. He is the founder of the Law Enforcement Mental Health Alliance of North Texas. And, before we wrap the show, we're going to put that information out there because if you're a police officer, you need to know about this, and you can come to the meetings. Hopefully they'll be back in person soon. We've been doing Zooms. And he was just named the president of NAMI, which is the National Mental, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sorry, Todd. I know Lima really well. I'm looking on his bio here. I think he might have to let us tell him, gosh darn it, I just read it. It's right here. NAMI North Texas. We're going to talk about that. And he works and donates his time to so many important organizations that all of us, we're all working to smash that stigma. He's right in the trenches with us, offering a hand up to any officer that needs one. And so without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Todd Guyere.
Hey, Todd, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Your shirt. I love it. You are not alone. Amen.
Yeah, it's one of our NAMI North Texas, one of our newest shirts there. It's one of our phrases we really live and die by there about how you're not alone.
Awesome. So tell everybody, you just got appointed the president of NAMI. Tell everybody a little bit about what NAMI does. And please tell us what NAMI stands for. I had it in front of me and then it just poof out of my head.
It's a National Alliance on Mental Illness. There's that word, illness. NAMI's National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI's has a national arm. They're really good. They have really good lobbying efforts up there in Washington, D.C. to really get at policies and policy decision makers out there. So they have a national arm, and then it's 700 and something chapters sprinkled all throughout the U.S. So they have a really broad reach with all these separate chapters that are all throughout the United States. NAMI is.
Get in that.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. How did you get into that? I mean, you've been a police officer for a long time. How did you get interested in mental health?
That's a good question. So when I've been a police officer, I was in patrol 16 and a half years. And when I was going to mental health related calls, brain health related calls, emergency detention, things like that, I always wanted to try and work with the families for other kinds of resources that would be useful to them and help them out. So NAMI was NAMI Dallas at the time, but NAMI North Texas was one of those resources that I would always refer families to. And one of the things I started learning about NAMI that made me want to get involved is they operate a lot like we do, with the idea that you want to communicate with people that speak your language. And they have these really amazing peer-to-peer and family-to-family programs where, like, say you have a loved one, a parent or a child, and say they've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and you're trying to navigate this complex healthcare system and so what psychiatrists and all, and it's real overwhelming. Well, NAMI North Texas has programs for you that are all no cost. You'll be able to go to one of their family-to-family, one of their peer-to-peer ones, and you'll be able to meet with families and peers that are in a similar situation as you. And you'll be able to hear, hey, this is what we did that works. This is what we did that was kind of a waste of time. These are what we think we should focus on. So you're just getting to learn from people that speak your language. I mean, the same thing we're looking for as first responders. We want to talk to people that speak our language. So I just started thinking, especially after I was appointed the mental health liaison, I started thinking, oh man, I've been using NAMI as a resource for so long and referring people to them. I would kind of like to try and give back. And the president of NAMI at the time and the vice president, I had known from working on CIT programs that NAMI will partner with agencies and help with their CIT programs. I got the opportunity that I could put in an application and try and get on with the board of directors, and I was accepted, and I'm the primary law enforcement component to their board. So it was pretty exciting, and they're so complementary to what we try and do in first responders. They have all these great programs that are people that speak your language. They live in similar situations as you are, and then NAMIs are all no cost. So that barrier is removed because, like you guys know, quality brain health care can be very pricey, like $350 an hour pricey. That's a huge barrier to a lot of us that aren't rock stars or pro athletes or anything. Yeah. So the NAMI programs being no cost are really good for reducing that barrier or removing that barrier.
Yeah, that's important to mention. John, we have the feedback.
I was just hearing that. I don't know why. I think that may be on your end.
You think it might be me?
No, Sam, I heard
I don't
it
think
you
so.
on Civic.
Yeah, now it's gone. So whatever we had going on there. So Todd, you and I first met when you extended an invitation to a Lima meeting. And again, that's the Law Enforcement Mental Health Alliance of North Texas, when we were meeting live. And I was so impressed with not only the representation of all the different PDs in the room, but the level of 501c3s and practitioners and everybody that you had. I mean, the place was packed. And the messages, the positive messages, the reaching out, the hey, you're not alone, just like your shirt says, and what you explained about NAMI, about speaking your language, you even did it in a huger way there. I think I just made up a word, huger. Because from, a badge of honor, our workshops, we already know if you can't connect to the first responder audience, that barrier is going to be even harder to come down, or you're always going to remember that practitioner or somebody as, oh, you're that person, right?
Yeah.
So Lima, it just plays a critical role in, again, bringing that barrier down, speaking the language, and your messaging and what you put out in emails is just so fantastic. It's like, you want to be part of this family. So first responders, you're listening, you got to be part of this family. It is so important. And just tell us how you made the transition into, being the mental health liaison for Garland PD and really wanting to take this on and spearheading it, because it's not easy. John and I have been to visit many PDs. It's not always the easiest thing to take that on.
And that's a great question. One thing, Sam, is I actually met you several years before that Lima meeting. You were one of the speakers at a Todd hostage negotiator conference that I was attending at.
That's
and you
right.
had your book there for sale, and you had a really powerful message. And I bought your book, and I spoke to you some. I think you even autographed my book. So that was the first time I met you. It was years before, but
Sorry.
no, that's all right. But then, yeah, it was great to see you at a Lima meeting. So I think, like I said, when I really started focusing on it so I was in patrol 16 and a half years. I know a little bit about being exposed to occupational trauma, like a bunch of little incidents, and then there's some big incidents mixed in there with that. But I know a little bit about it from just so long in patrol, firsthand experience. So I'm around a lot of other officers, and I see some of the impacts it has on them, or we'll be talking about, some call we were on, and everyone the next day is talking about, man, I didn't sleep but an hour or whatever. And maybe a couple of days later, still we're focused talking about it. And I just started getting interested in, so I've always been like an athlete. I've always liked to run. Sometimes I would like to run 10.5 miles one day and shorter distance others. And I learned real quick in doing something like that, if I'm going to expose my body to that kind of trauma, I've got to do X, Y, and Z to reduce the chance that I'm going to get injured. I've got to do something to mitigate that kind of trauma that I'm going to introduce to myself. And so I started learning about that so I wouldn't get injured. And I started figuring out, man, we need to kind of do something similar for our brain, because we're going to be exposed to all these traumas. And, I know we signed up for it. We signed up for this job. So we're going to be exposed to these traumas just like I signed up to run. So then I'm going to want to do something to help kind of mitigate these I call it occupational trauma that I'm exposed to. So when our current chief of police, Brian, decided to create the first mental health liaison position, I put in for it. I was already been on the SWAT team as a hostage negotiator for many, many years. I was already learning how to really empathetically listen to somebody in crisis, connect with that person on a real meaningful level, kind of follow that behavioral staircase, if you will, and then try and get the person back to closer to their normal. So then they're able to speak with you rationally, and we come up with a good resolution. So I was already getting a lot of training in that and seeing how much it helped me on the street with citizens and residents that I was coming in contact with that were in a big crisis. So when the opportunity came to put in for that position, I put in for it. I was fortunate enough to be selected. And one of the things I'm really, really lucky about with Chief Brian is he afforded me the latitude to not just focus on one thing. So some mental health liaisons, they're mainly focused on the residents and their emergency detention. And that's what takes up all their time. And I was afforded the latitude that I work on those, and that's a big part of my job. But I also was able to start focusing and working on officer resiliency projects. So that's where I'm getting to a little bit of the long backstory there for Lima. So initially, I was traveling around North Texas. I was going to other agencies that have a mental health liaison, or maybe they have a CIT team or some kind of rapid response team. And I was learning face-to-face what they were doing. And that was just eating up a lot of time. I mean, that was labor intensive to try and do all that learning. And I didn't want to just stay in a silo. I know I'm not the smartest person in the room. I need to see what other people are doing and see what works and what doesn't. So I started thinking, how can I try and get some of this important connections and these partnerships without all the driving all over the Metroplex? So I made probably about 20 contacts, maybe 15. Mental health liaisons, some really good culturally competent LPCs. And I just started asking some of them, hey, where's do we have a committee, or where do we all meet to like a think tank and share ideas and really raise our game and not just stay in our lane? And the response I was getting was nowhere, but that sounds good. And I keep going back to I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So I just thought, well, I started bouncing ideas off some people and bouncing ideas off my better half, Becky, for trying to come up with a name. And so then we decided Law Enforcement Mental Health Alliance of North Texas, abbreviates LIMA. And I just emailed those 20 people and said, hey, I just started this alliance. See if you want to be a member. This was all way pre-COVID, halfway through 2019. we'll meet at such and such area. And I got a lot of interest, and they started forwarding the messages around and all. So I wasn't on the board yet with NAMI, but I was working with the previous executive director, and I came to her and I was like, hey, I'm forming this alliance, and you guys have all these great peer-to-peer programs and family-to-family, and I've been figuring out that when we want to try and get first responders to like start taking care of their brain health and make it important, invest in themselves, we need to have a good anonymous option, because some of these men and women I work with, they are not going to be utilizing stuff in-house because it's not anonymous. And I started thinking, man, that's like regular healthcare. If I'm going to get my teeth cleaned, if I'm going to go to my family doc, I'm going to get my eyes checked, I just make an appointment and go. I don't run it through my chain of command. I don't use an EAP or anything. I just make a selection. So I wanted it to be anonymous like that. So I'm talking to the previous executive director of NAMI, and I was like, hey, I'm forming this alliance. And like one of the things I want to bring to you guys is to partner with us. And we want to create the first of its kind for NAMI peer-to-peer first responder peer-to-peer group. And I just pitched a little bit of the idea. I won't bog you down with all that, but I pitched a little bit of the idea, and they were all for it. They just welcomed me with open arms. And then they were like, hey, we can sponsor this meeting space for Lima. We've got access down here to these big meeting rooms. We can sponsor the meeting space. We want to help you out with that or whatever. And we like had the first meeting, overpacked the room in the first meeting. Like I was hoping 15 people showed up or something. I was gonna be real happy. And the room could fit like 35, and we didn't have enough chairs or tables or anything. And then just before COVID in January, we had like 80 some participants there. It was a packed house, almost packed out that big room. I mean, I've been so impressed by these agencies in North Texas and some of these culturally competent therapists and nonprofits. They show up like they want to know about this. They are hungry for information and knowledge, and they're ready to share what they're doing and see what we're doing and really collaborate to the same end goal of like really helping to increase the resiliency in our staff. So this trauma, this occupational trauma they're exposed to isn't always injuring them, isn't always causing them problems professionally and personally. It's been really cool. It just blew away my expectations. Just blew away.
Yeah, there's that feedback again. That's so weird.
I think that's on your end.
Okay. I don't know, because it's for 1 second and then it goes away. And again, that was the thing that really impressed me most. And what I find interesting is, okay, so in these meetings, you have all these people, the officers, sometimes leadership, sometimes not, right? Yeah. Sometimes the officer is in the same boat as you. They've accepted the position of mental health liaison in their department, and it's so we're all in this room. We're all like playing the same game, if you will. Yeah. We're advancing the ball, and then we get back to our departments, okay, and it's like, because there's still that wall, if you will, between what you're doing, like with the badge of honor, what we're doing, and the higher ups. It's like, okay, you handle as a mental health liaison. Mm-hmm. But when you don't have the buy-in from the higher ups, you've got a great group that meets, once a month, once every other month, once every couple of months, but it doesn't translate into their PBs. So like, walking into your office was phenomenal because you've got an entire board. All somebody has to do is say, whisper, hey, tell you what's going on. You get a card, this person, I mean, it was so awesome. And what's your message to take what we learn in Lima when we get together and everything? What's your message to try and get the leadership on board?
So like that is a really good point, and that's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge. One of the things that is really easy to understand is like a chief of police, a sheriff. They have hundreds of things going around with all the things they have to supervise, all the things they have to make decisions about. So we're going to compete into that kind of swirl of information. And so when we meet and talk about that with contemporaries, and it's really cool when I do get, like, we've had an assistant chief from Grand Prairie there. It's really important to get some decision makers to come. But I really try and talk about that you've got to take this information, and like if your agency has like some kind of command staff meeting, you've got to try and request to get this information in there if you're the guest speaker. A lot of agencies now have like what they call smart meetings, and they're trying way more like predictive policing rather than just reactive. So you need to get that information in the smart meetings. Like my lieutenant, when Lima was first started, Lieutenant Chittimai, she wanted all that information from the Lima meeting. She thought that was an awesome thing. I'd supply her literally a couple sheets of information from Lima meetings, and she would bring that information to the smart meeting where command staff is. So we talk about things like that, that like if the chief of police or the sheriff, if they're too busy to actually attend, we want to try and see if they can get someone that's showing their command staff to attend. If that's not happening right away, and it's baby steps, then you want to get synopsis, a brief of what's going on, and get that into your chain of command and get them to one of those smart meetings or one of the chain of command. They always normally have weekly meetings with the command staff. You want to start getting that information into those meetings. But yeah, that's definitely it's a challenge. And like I've only been in this position as the mental liaison 19 months, I think now. And I just had to keep reminding myself, I want everything right now. Like, this is good stuff, and I want it all right now. And I kind of feel like a little kid in my playground pounding on something. And I got to remember that like not everything happens on my timeline. And then we just want to keep staying the course and pushing forward, and we'll make those baby steps, and we'll start getting to where we need to be.
Todd, let me ask you a question. And I think those meetings are fantastic. But in a department such as yours, okay, where you have, I don't know how many, there's probably 90, maybe a little over 100, maybe more.
We're like 353 or something, somewhere around that, 353.
Okay, on a meeting like that, to get that information to those officers is a little easier than let's say the NYPD.
Oh yeah,
where we have 38,000, or Chicago PD, where we have over 10,000, something like that. I feel that some of these meetings are turning into smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
and they're doing things, just for the sake of saying they're doing it.
Right.
But you can, how are they distributing the information to large departments?
Right.
Like 300, yes, it's kind of it's a little easier. Maybe one of the departments that has about 90, but when you a department such as New York or one of the bigger city, California, with over 3,000, 4,000 members, what is the game plan? Do you see that those departments are distributing the information properly, or are they just sending out a memo? Like you get a memo, you're like, it doesn't pertain to me, and you throw it in the garbage. So I think we're losing communication somewhere from the command staff, and I think it's great that they do those meetings, and they probably cover a lot of good ground. I just don't think it's filtering down in the proper channels, or it's ending up like telephone, the kids' game telephone. You got some really good information here, but by the time it gets down here, they're going to take my guns, they're going to lock me up, they're going to put me in a straitjacket, I'm going to lose my job. Where are we making sure that no communicate? Are we tracking communication? Are we making sure there's no loss in it?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. One of our Lima members, like one of the biggest PDs, of course, in the Metroplex is Dallas, 3,500 officers signed. One of the Lima members is Officer Farr, and he is the military liaison, and he's a member of Lima. And he's told me that it's just to your point, it's a huge challenge for him to try and get this valuable information distributed to 3,500 officers. And he's literally told me that besides like a mass email to everyone, he has to take this information like in an old school 1980 flyer format, and he has to physically drive to every substation and post flyers around in like the high traffic area that the officers use, like locker rooms or body camera or quartermaster or whatever. He has to physically drive around to all those to try and make sure he gets all that information. Because just to your point, you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so much information just gets trampled. Like, that's where I understand that's your smoke and mirrors comment. Just really valuable information just gets trampled by whatever the louder barking dog is in the room or whatever at the time. So that's that's a challenge.
And you know, with flyers and cops, if it doesn't say free food or anything free, a cop is not going to read it, right?
Yeah,
they're going to, you know, you got to capture them with some sort of headline and try to draw them in.
Yeah.
But you know, we all know, and we've seen it, and we've actually experienced it this past Friday during the workshop. Is that if we're not upfront and personal, if we're not verbalizing one-on-one with our officers or our first responders, the message is going to get lost either in a memo or in an email or in, you know, a translation coming down different channels. So, you know, to me, and I like I said, and I think it's great that they're taking those steps. I just think they're being it's kind of, and I hate to use the word waste of time, because it's really not. I don't think it's working. I just put up, you know, right now, and this is from Blue Help. Was it 169 suicides just in the Leo community this year
that we know of?
Correct, that we know of. And, you know, we had 258 last year. We're at 169 during a pandemic when cops are out there that are rolling 27. I mean, they're really being burned. Still getting high numbers of suicide. And you would think that those numbers would have been a little lower with guys working 12-hour shifts and constantly rolling and making the overtime and making the bucks. But it doesn't seem like we've had such a low tick, you know, a down tick in the suicides. Right. So, but what I felt and what was very inspirational is what Garland hosted for a Badge of Honor this Friday, and what Sam read some of the reviews on the workshop. It was very, like, you know, it was uplifting to see that though we only had a handful, 22 people or 25 people in that audience because of COVID, that's 25 people we really made a difference on.
Yep.
And a huge impactful statement.
I think, John, I think one thing is that's really interesting is there might have only been 25 people in this one, but you know, it's really important to me to get feedback for anything that Lima is associated with. And so I know they're going to fill out some information before they head out after a really full 8-hour day on one of those pieces of paper. But I wanted to actually call some of them, make some human connection there, and talk to them. So one of the things, I think, to your previous point about how we're going to get this information out, we're going to get it out by word of mouth. I mean, that's what a lot of information from Lima got out. So there might have only been 25 people there. But that officer that I spoke to, they told me that the messages from you and Sam and Jeff and other speakers there, that was the first time, and Sam stole my thunder. She already told the actual quote, but that was the first time that someone in 28 years had made it clear to him that they care about what he's being exposed to. They care about what this trauma might be doing to his brain and to his professional life and his personal life. And then not only do they care, they're going to offer up during that, crammed into that 8 hours of hyper education for everything occupational trauma. They're going to give you some resources to leave with, ones that you can do at home, ones that you can do by going to one of these non-traditional programs or going to see one of these culturally competent therapists there. I mean, one of your guest speakers from 22 Kill, Timpa, three of your participants said that 22 Kill has saved their life. Yeah. So part of what makes me drive forward is there may have only been 25 people there, but that officer and a bunch of those other ones that gave me really good feedback on the phone, they are spreading the word. They are telling brothers and sisters at work, holy smokes, man, this was really meaningful. I left like equipped that I'm not alone. Like NAMI says here on our shirt, that we say all the time in our line of work here, what we're trying to do. And they're going to spread that word. And I'm looking forward to good things in 2021 and farther working with the Badge of Honor and getting a lot more people connected. Because word of mouth, man, I think, like you, I agree with you. I'm not reading a flyer anywhere unless it says free food.
No, and you know,
unless it says free food or free,
right, free something, right. Free tickets somewhere,
free coffee all day.
Well, one thing I didn't know, and I thought this was the coolest part of the workshop. I don't know if you guys noticed this. There were two girls sitting in the front, off to the right, and they brought a pad and pencil, and a couple of people brought pads and pencils, and nobody took notes.
Yeah,
and I thought that was great because, you know, besides a cop reading a fucking poster, you know, the worst thing they want to do is read notes because you know they're not going to go back to the notes afterwards and go, oh, what did he say? They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So to me, that shows that they absorbed it. They absorbed part of the workshop, and and they don't have to go back because it's already we put it in their mind mentally. And I think that was the biggest thing I took out of this workshop. I'm looking at our pad and there's no notes, no doodles, no little stick figure or fuck this place or whatever. You know, none of that. And it was good. You know, and I think that's how we you can get through to cops besides the free stuff. You know, and John Edmondson did I could pat him on the back all day long because to see the interaction he got and the feedback he got just by people saying that one word answers, or even having the courage to stand in front of 25 other officers and say, you know, loneliness, to use those vulnerable words.
Yeah.
Even the vulnerable words, you know, no one used like, oh, you know, with the big, they used like really like loneliness, sadness, you know,
feeling words, like it's not a word. Yeah, that's definitely not a norm of, you know, what we talk about during our day. And you know, one of the things that we had talked about before, and it was the blue line that we walk, okay, and how when it comes to mental health, how this line seems to get broken. Whether it's, you know, listening to stories about how, you know, from a spouse whose officer husband completed suicide in the parking lot of the station, not finding him for 3 days, and really not the department not having the capacity to process it and properly support this now widow. Okay. So the blue line got broken, you know, with officers that come forward that say, hey, I that call, I don't know what it is, but it's replaying in my mind over and over and over again. You know, do you have a resource? And having somebody look at them strange or be like, dude, there were 3 other people there. You're fine. Just go out here. You know, the line is broken.
Well, Sam,
and
look,
what we're trying to do though is keep it to where it's like, you know what? I'm glad you came and you told me about that because you're not alone.
Yeah.
And we've got to work to keep that blue line unbroken, where the officers feel like they have support at every single level, whether it's talking to another cop out in the parking lot, whether it's utilizing the breathing, your seat and your feet, that exercise, you know, putting your hand on your heart. Like all of this supports you as an officer. It supports the line that you walk, and you know, that's what we're all about. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No. And I just want to. I'm sorry for trying to interrupt you, but I wanted to make a point before my old mind forgot it. And it was definitely on what you were talking about. And here's where it lies the problem. Okay, to go ask for help, that's great, but this brings me back to our last week's conversation with Chris Fields. Okay, you know, the Oklahoma City bombing. right?
Yeah.
He gets there at 9 o'clock. The devastation. He's carrying a dead baby, right? He's pulling a lady out who's got to get her leg amputated. He's there until 11 o'clock at night. They release him to go back to the firehouse, right, to catch some sleep. 2 o'clock in the morning, they bang him with a house fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Now think about this. Think about the cop who is on patrol right now, and he just goes and does CPR to a baby. He goes to call for a cardiac, right? Has to grab the baby, does CPR, gets to the hospital, hands it over to the hospital, right? And then turns around to the sergeant when he and goes, "Hey man, I'm just not feeling right about that call. Hey, listen, there's a robbery in progress down at 7-Eleven. All right, I'll go take that first." There's no decompression time, and and maybe it's not the fault of the departments because they're understaffed or the call volume is so high, but there's no time to decompress one trauma before another trauma lays on top of it. And what happens once we start laying all these traumas? And I remember when I worked for New York City EMS, all right, back in the early 90s, right? It wasn't uncommon that I had a double homicide, 2 traumatic arrests, a drowned baby, all in an 8-hour tour. So, I mean, where I wouldn't even be able to clean the blood out of my ambulance.
Yeah.
I was performing CPR 3-4 times a night. I'd have people throwing up in my mouth, spitting that out, going to the next call. And, there was no time. There was just to really joke around real quick. We were so busy one day, we left the stretcher at the fucking hospital because we dropped the patient, and there was such a lot of patients in the hospital. We got another call for a cop shot. We ran back out in the ambulance and took off, and we're like, "Oh shit, we forgot the stretcher."
Wow.
So we had to put the cop on a backboard and drive him to the hospital while he was on the floor of the ambulance. So there's no. It's a constant hamster wheel that you're on, and there's no chance to get out, sip of that water. We have to learn how to decompress our officers. We have to learn how to decompress our first responders before we can even really begin to start saying, "Hey, let's trickle down this information," because a normal officer is going to turn around and go, "Yeah, when am I going to have time to do that? When am I going to have time to do that?" That's why John Edmondson's stuff was so powerful, where they can, after they get into the car from the hospital doing CPR, they can sit there and go like this.
At
least they can take that 30 seconds. But if we're asking for help, they're going to ask for help right after the trauma, and then they're going to get put on another trauma. So we got to fix that problem before we can fix anything else. If I mean,
what do you do in the bigger cities? With that, one after the other, and on the face of it, on the surface, it's like that's a good thing because we don't have time to process it. But when we get home, we get off shift
or retire.
Especially, it's twofold. Either you're going home to your spouse and kiddos, and you don't want to necessarily bring that home, so it's learning how to do things prior to walking in the door, so that decompression. Or you're going home to an empty apartment or an empty house. And
or the bar.
Right. Or go on a choir practice because you don't want to deal, or you want to be able to numb out to a point where those call it revisits, especially dealing with trauma, dealing with kids. So, I mean, I think it's fair to say we've all been out there speaking to a lot of officers, a lot of first responders. If it's a trauma, a serious situation, and there's a child that's severely injured or killed, that just seems to take the longest. We heard Jeff's story during the workshop, and I mean, you could feel how fresh it. Well, you knew how fresh it was in his mind. It's been, what did he say, 19 years, and he still knows the layout of the house.
Doesn't go away.
No.
I mean, when he was going through that, and so for people to really understand 19 years from finding a child who completed suicide in his own house, and systematically being able to say, we walked in the house, up the stairs, to the right, down the, and everything is like it's fresh. How the scenes smell.
Right.
So it doesn't go away. We have good days and we have days where it kind of sits on us. And that's why it is so important to have the mental health. I wish they wouldn't call it mental health offices, but but to have inside the department and your office is kind of like in the center. So like people really have to walk by. So it would be like purposely avoiding you.
Yeah.
See everybody. And I had a question that I've been saving based upon your bio as hostage negotiator, and how that serves you when assisting officers, not only in your own department, just officers in general.
Man, it really helps me out with listening at a really high level. Like I have really obtained some skills as a hostage negotiator to listen when someone's speaking, focus on every word they're saying, playing it back in my head while they talk. And then if there's a time for me to respond because the person that's in crisis slows down or stops speaking, then I'm ready to really be able to show them that I listened at a very high level, because I'll be able to mirror back or paraphrase back what they said, because I wasn't thinking about my response. I wasn't thinking about a solution. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was only listening and repeating back what they were saying in my head. And I learned those skills as a hostage negotiator in various schools, county, FBI. So it's really helped me be a really high-level empathetic listener. That's one of the main. When I think about other hostage negotiators, I instantly think to myself, man, if I'm trying to build a solid peer-to-peer team, I hope the other negotiators are interested, because they already should be coming with some skills we need, which is high-level listening. They should really, especially when somebody's in a crisis, because I mean, I could talk to you for an hour about what it's like to try and speak to someone on a phone or in person that's barricaded or took somebody hostage. I mean, that's the highest level of jacked up rage you can imagine. And when you follow the things we've learned, like I call it that behavioral stairway, they work to try and get someone back to their normal, because they just want to be heard when you're in a crisis. And then when we get someone back to kind of their normal, that's when we can start working on what else they need to feel better. So it's a really valuable tool. It's really helped me a lot.
Wow, that's like EMDR in a nutshell, what you just said.
Yeah.
But when you talk about listening skills, when and here's another thing, a lot of our commanders, a lot of our high-ranking officials do not possess those skills, like you just said, the listening skills. One, and I'm not going to defend them, they're overburdened. They have a lot of going on in their mind. So when somebody does come up to them and says something, it's white noise in most situations. So listening skills is a priority. They don't teach you that, in managerial skill or officers class. They don't teach you that.
Right.
Paperwork and let's move on. Yeah. So there's a lot of things you just touched on through your training. And like I said, you're a police officer, right? And a mental health liaison, right? But you possess the skills that most of our upper management need.
Yeah.
Most of our upper officers need, So what we're finding here, just in this little conversation, and I think this is great, is that there are a lot of flaws and breakdowns within our command structure that need to be fixed in order to really start reducing the mental health aspect of some of our officers.
Yeah. I mean, that is a fair, assessment. And I definitely see there's some progressive thinkers right now that are decision makers in North Texas. And I'm seeing some things moving and changing. Garland's one of them. There's many others, like Grand Prairie comes to mind. They've got a really pretty good system.
Christina Martinez.
Yeah.
Christina Martinez.
Yeah.
She is an amazing assistant chief. We met the chief, remember Sam, and I never met a chief so passionate about, mental health.
Making sure his officers are operating at
Full capacity.
optimal level, full capacity, completely resilient, and if something happens, they're there for them.
Yeah.
And you won't be surprised to know she's a Lima member. Won't be a surprise to anybody. She's a member of Lima. She attends meetings. Yeah.
She is a wonderful chief. I'd be honored to work under her, man. She, you feel safe and taken care of. Just like Chief Wayburn, you have certain command structures. Chief Wayburn's the same way. Very much takes an interest in all of his officers, both professionally and personally. And that's what they need when you have such a high stress job. You don't want your boss just in his office shutting his door. You want to be able to gain that bond and that trust.
I think you guys will be excited about this, like I am, especially being the president of NAMI North Texas. NAMI National has met Conrad Weaver. They've had a conversation. They're having another meeting this Friday. They've already linked his First Responder Friday podcast on their page, and I'm hoping we'll get a badge of honors link there too as a resource.
Wow, that'd be fantastic.
But they've already NAMI's always partnered with law enforcement for CIT. They may not have as much for officer resiliency, but I'm seeing that as they're going to be another resource for us, and they've got a really strong lobbying arm at the national level. So I think they can be an asset to us going forward, that they're interested in what's going on in first responders and resiliency, and they're interested in expanding that. And I talked about at NAMI North Texas, we're going to try and pioneer that anonymous, no-cost, peer-to-peer program. I mean, that's something that John and Sam, you guys could be peer facilitators when we get it going. You can go through our little 16-hour training, and you'll be on the list. And when an officer from Farmers Branch or wherever schedules an appointment, you might be next up on the list, and you're going to drive to the location and meet with them, and you can be part of that. So I'm real excited about the future for that. Being able to partner with not just NAMI North Texas, but what's going to go on with NAMI National. I think they're going to be an added asset for us that has a national reach.
The one thing I like. Go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
I was going to say one of the things that Todd from the Tahan conference, the hostage negotiator conference, that really stood out to me was the number of officers that spoke to me personally that said the only way I knew I was going to get the help I needed was to go outside my agency.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, and that's why the partnership with all the practitioners and everybody like 22 Kill and everybody that we brought in for the first responders to say, well, okay, I don't think I'm ready to go sit on a couch.
Yeah.
But that equine therapy looks good.
Yeah.
Or so to be able to just take that whole idea of I'm stuck because I'm a first responder. I have to go through my chain of command in order for me to get help. It gone.
Yeah.
That's where it's like the message is like, I want to shout it from the rooftops, like, you're not stuck. You're not you're not in this box anymore. Yeah. Reach out and we're not saying you have to do this route or you have to go that route. No. If you find what works for you, but please just reach out.
Yeah. You know what we got to do? You know what NAMI's got to do? And I'm going to just quote what Jeff says at some of our, he always brings this up, is that when we look at the budget, right? And, we got the janitorial supplies, right?
Yeah.
And then the station supplies. And just below the station janitorial supplies is the mental health budget. Yeah. We got to go above the janitorial and the stationary supplies. So this way, when they make the cuts, they'll cut the bleach and the paper clips and not the mental health.
Hey, John, that is an awesome point, and like that, a fair question that you could address any decision maker in law enforcement that's on your radio show that ends up at one of your badge of honor things. Ask them, what is your brain health budget for your staff? That's a very fair question.
Where does that fall on the budget line item?
Yes,
I bet you it's not within the top 10 line items. I bet you it's all the way down on the bottom, just like training. Training's all the way down on the bottom. Those are the things that, when they got to save money, first things to be cut.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I find that's interesting still to this day, and Todd, you've spoken to a lot of veterans too, because we have a lot of police officers who served in our military before, is the focus on training. I mean, okay, they have missions. They train for the missions. Yeah. Every day in law enforcement is a mission.
Yeah.
And the not only with the feds, but the department that I was in, we were we had to qualify quarterly with the feds. Of course, there's more money there. Yeah. Twice a year at the local level. And, it's like you have to do this training. And we were big proponents of training. When at the lieutenant level, I was like, we're doing this training. We just have to get it scheduled. It's an interesting thing to look at, is that here you have soldiers training for a mission, and then the mission's over until the next one. Right. And so there's training in between until the next one. We've got to help the command staff understand that because we're in an everyday is a mission mindset, right. Mindset. We got to have this right in order to go home every night, right? So it's an everyday mission mindset. We've got to be able to have the support of the training to support that level of everyday mission. Yep. And, we're still missing the boat. I will say that Texas is getting better and better. But the smaller departments, there's no budget for training at all.
Right. But it also goes back down to, your command staff, Sam, is going to turn around and go, you know what? They're gonna throw the smoke and mirrors again at you. They're gonna say that's a great idea, but when do we have the time? When am I gonna be able to? Because these cops are fighting a mission every single day, like you said, every single day. Not like the military that gets that 6-month decompression time, to train, right?
They're deployed, not 6 months.
Not if you deploy, but our cops have 8 hours between tours to gear up for the next mission, and the command staff's going to go, well, I'm not going to take them off the street. I'm not going to train them. I'm not going to give them 4 hours training. I need them out in the street. My crime stats are up. There's graffiti going on at the grocery store. I gotta have a cop there. And they'll make excuse after excuse after excuse until you go away. And that's the reality of it. That's a sad part about it. And it's not their fault. It's not that every precinct is understaffed. It's undermanned. There's no money there, and the cops that we have on the beat now are being overworked so much that when you turn around and you throw a training seminar at them, or if you train, they're like, you know what? Go fuck yourself. I want to go home.
But guess what? We had this thing called COVID that came along, right? I guarantee you, every single police officer got training for that, right?
Yeah,
and you want to talk about one of the
hands,
right? You want to talk about one of the biggest impacts on mental health and wellness. All of 2020, to end of 2019 and all of 2020, there wasn't a break ever, because now you had the added stress of, oh shit, am I going to bring this home to my family?
Right.
Am I going to get somebody sick because of everything that I was exposed to? Okay. Yeah. So once again, get training in firearms, get training in CPR, get training in controlled tactics. Hello.
But no one gets trained on how to help.
How to put on latex gloves, the OSHA training, how to put on masks correctly, how to do CPR and COVID or not do CPR and COVID. And what is it? It's a pile of crap that continues to build up and no outlet still. So it's like, come on, the light bulb, folks. And the beautiful thing about, what we do and Todd's right there in his office is we come to you. You don't need to drive anywhere. There's no hotel expense,
Sam, you're making me laugh
Yeah,
because when you talk about training, I went to train for, there could have been so many good trainings to go through. And I went through disorder control training, right? With 25 other officers. For
disorder control? Is that what you said?
Disorder control, because for riots and stuff like that were happening in the city. Yeah. You know what they told us? We went through 4 days of training, 8 hours a day, to learn how to put 25 cops in a V shape.
Man, I think the marching band at any high school could have helped you with that.
Right.
4 hours.
They teach the marching band how to do that in a day, playing instruments. It took 4 hours to train 25 cops to stand in a V and walk through a crowd. What a waste of time. But but
I'm just saying, you have to look at the reality. You have to look at the reality of policing in 2020. And the reality is, if the police officers do not start getting the support and the outlets that they need, we're going to have even more, increased nutrition. We need increased nutrition, increased attrition, and it's throwing defund the police, big middle finger to y'all with that crap. It's all the cities that are supporting that. When the dust settles at the end of the day, because it will, we will start seeing a decline, and you will be so screwed because you will have so many phenomenal men and women that don't have the skills to continue to do the job that they know in their hearts they want to continue to do, or they've already said the big F you and left. So your numbers are way down and you're scramble. But the bigger thing, we got nobody to take their place. I met some moms who's told me their sons want to be cops, and I'm just like, oh, thank God. Okay, they've got a bunch of years to go before the academy, but you don't hear that anymore. So what is going to happen? There's just this big question mark.
Sam, with your attrition, remember we were talking about identity? Well, here's the backslap of that with the attrition is that these cops aren't retiring because they or leaving the job because they did their 20 years or their 30 years and they're going to collect their pension. They're being forced off the job. So you're ripping the heart and soul of what they wanted to do their whole life. You're ripping that out of them and throwing them at the Home Depot now to go shake paint. That wasn't their calling. Their calling was to be a cop. Now you rip that identity away from them. And that's another aspect because that affects retired guys losing their identity as a cop to begin with. Now we got the attrition of cops being forced off the job, which now they're not only upset because they don't have the police status anymore. They're pissed off because you made them go. So there's
that blue line.
Double whammy, yeah. So we got a lot to cover, man. I mean, if we had another 8 hours, we could probably scratch a little bit more of the surface.
Yeah. So Todd, go ahead.
Oh well, I'm just gonna say, when I'm talking about with my own chief or other decision makers in law enforcement in the Metroplex that I know through NAMI or Lima, I just try and frame it that we want our staff to be really healthy, and part of the thing we have to take care of is their brain health, and so we need to partner with things like a Badge Your Honor and 22 Kill. And all these other good organizations, Our Watch, NAMI, that are out here in the region, because we want to do things. Because I know right now, there are officers like the one I talked to they left a badge of honor, and they left healthier than they arrived. Like literally. So I'm going to frame that to the leaders and the decision makers and law enforcement in North Texas, that we want to take care of our staff so they are better equipped to make really good decisions under tons of stress in a nanosecond. And it's our responsibility to take care of their brain health so they are better equipped to make those really good decisions under tons of stress in a nanosecond. So that's kind of how I try and frame the conversation. We need to invest some money now, kind of to John's point. We need to have the budget up higher and invest some money now to help take care of our staff, and then it's going to pay off, just tenfold later.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, super well said. For first responders that may be listening, Todd, what's a message that you give to them, and if they're having a tough time, and how can they reach you?
Okay. Well, the first thing I'd say is, whatever your pain is, it's valid and it matters. And like, we are here to try and help reduce that and mitigate it. But the first message is that, it's valid and it matters. I'll stop at nothing to assist you. I'll relentlessly help to assist you no matter what it is. If you need traditional or non-traditional, or just somebody to ventilate to. I'm really easily reachable on the city website. All my contact information is there. You can call me at 972-485-4857. You can email me at gyuret@garlandtx.gov. Obviously,
wait, say that again. Todd, say that again.
The email?
Yeah.
Oh, they can contact me at my email at gyuret@garlandtx.gov or 972-485-4857. And they can contact me and say they need help for their sister, their cousin, their mom. I mean, if they don't want to self-disclose, I don't care. I just want to get the information to them, but I'll be relentless. I've got resources like a badge of honor. And really, I feel pretty stacked in North Texas. We're pretty good for officer resiliency. I mean, I might take more, but we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've already got I don't feel under pressure. I got to write a grant, and then I got to go find somebody that I don't know who they are to help us out. We've already got stuff like a badge of honor, 22 kill, our watch, and the list goes on. We've already got some good resources that I can help connect you with. But I'll be relentless. There's just nothing I won't do to try and help you out, to help you be healthy. I mean, my message too is you've got to invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself. I mean, a lot of guys will run out and buy a big new pickup or a big diesel and jack it up and some big tires. And that's great, but that's not actually investing in yourself. That's a object. You've got to invest in yourself. You've got to make that a priority. The same way, like a lot of these guys, they'll invest in themselves and they'll buy protein and other supplements and they'll be in the gym a lot. And that's great, man. That's good for brain health. But you've got to invest in yourself, sometimes past that, to live a healthier and happier life. But that's my message, and I'll be relentless to help you out.
Well, wow. Excellent. That is one heck of a message. Thank you so much. Todd is relentless. You are not alone. It's huge. They need to hear that. Well, Todd, thank you so much for spending this hour plus with us. Important messages the entire way through. Guys, reach out to Todd. Get more information on Lima, and that would be a good place to. There you go. John just put your email address up.
That's it.
To get information from Lima so that they can. Are we still virtual?
Yeah, it's still virtual right now. I'm hoping it won't be much longer into 2021, and we'll be able to meet in person again. I was going to tell you, Sam, that are you guys going to be ready with the Badge of Honor next year to drive to Tarrant County? Because one of the participants drove over an hour to come. and she's going to be dying to host you guys out in their neck of the woods and bring in some of those agencies.
That's my neck of the woods. I'm here in Tarrant now. I'm in Tarrant County.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
She's a Lima member, and she was committed and drove all the way out. And I mean, I tried on the phone to get her to give me some constructive criticism because she was saying how fantastic it was, and I mean everything, best thing since sliced bread. And really, she couldn't come up with anything besides it was kind of a bummer to take a key to the restroom all the time. But then she was like, "But we worked through it, so no big deal." Like she even minimized that. So I was like, "Okay, I tried to lead you to give me some constructive criticism, and it just wasn't there." So.
Well, that means a lot. That really means a lot. And we're here, you know, for all first responders. And we just thank you enough. And you know, we're going to be keeping in touch. And, you know, 2021 is going to be a banner year. And we are going to smash that stigma. We're going to do it together. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you at the next. And thank you for all your help with everything. And we'll see you in 2021.
And I appreciate the opportunity. You guys have a great Christmas. Hope you enjoy some time with your family and recharge. We got a lot of work to do next year.
There you go. A little self-care.
All right.
Merry Christmas, Todd.
Merry Christmas, Todd. Take care.
Wow, that was super powerful. Todd is just the way that he connects with people, with his messages. I love it. I mean, the first time we met, it just, you know, or the second time we met, we've met a lot of times. I'm bad. I admit I screwed that one up. But so folks, this is, I can't believe we're coming up on the end of the year. I'm actually thankful to get 2020 over with. But, you know, Mad Radio, we've gone through a change recently. We so appreciate the support, not only through the Facebook, but in YouTube. John is working diligently because this way that we're streaming is going to be, should be working on multiple platforms. We'll get that up. Yeah. So please share the show, connect with us on Facebook, jump over to YouTube, subscribe to Mad Radio Texas. It's Mad Radio Texas. Subscribe to our YouTube page because we're going to be going live on there. You'll be able to ask questions as well. Over on that platform, we're going to be monitoring both. And just if you want to show support, not only for the show, but a badge of honor, which was a big topic tonight, super easy. abadgeofhonor.com. Click on Mad Radio and you'll see a link where you can donate. And all of what we collect goes to a badge of honor to put on these programs for our first responders. Because, you know, we're all over the place. So we're Texas, but we're national. So if you need us to come, we will be there. We're going to keep that thin blue line, the red line, the green line, and all lines unbroken. First responder lines unbroken. Yeah. And it's just, you know, it continues to just be an honor to really do this show. And our prior guests, so everybody that's written a book, folks, after we're done with the show, you can scroll back up to the Facebook page and you can see everybody's book up there. Go ahead and support our first responders and first responder supporters that have written books out there. And it's just all about support and making this family bigger and bigger.
Yes. So, man, once again, a powerful show, Sam. Thank you so much. And, you know, the one thing that I'm going to leave with, and I think we're going to support Conrad Weaver big time. We're going to end our show with his PTSI trailer, his upcoming film that really supports our first responders. Please check out the PTSI trailer movie. Go to the website and let's make this a reality for Conrad.
Let's make this film, man. Yeah.
I mean, even the trailer is powerful, and I can't imagine what the rest of the film is going to be like.
Yeah, and I would be remiss. You help support me. This has been a tough week because of Facebook, and we're only at Wednesday. A super way to support the show is if anybody is looking to get their Texas license to carry, look no further. Go to carryintexas.com. You support the show that way too, because Facebook isn't letting me do stuff with it anymore. Damn you!
Damn you, Facebook!
Damn you, Facebook! I have other words for Facebook, but that's private.
Before we do leave, I just want a big shout out to the NYPD, those 2 officers who were at the St. John's Cathedral on the active shooter. You are heroes. You saved 2 lives that were pinned down behind a pole. You acted with bravery and you took out the shooter. God bless you guys. I want to dedicate this show to you because I know you're back on patrol after that specific incident. You got no downtime as well. So God bless you, officers that were on that job, took out the shooter, and made a difference in those 2 people's lives. We saw you here in Texas, and we support you. So thank you for all you did to the NYPD.
And to all the men and women out there holding the line both here and at home, we pray for you every day. Please stay safe. And Christmas and the holidays are coming up. We want you here.
Yes.
We want you with your families. We want you well. Stay strong.
Today is not the day to give up. Watch this PTSI trailer. Sam, take care. I'll see you next week.
You got it.
After working for 20 plus years as a police officer, not having backup is kind of scary. While I was trying to heal from the traumas that had put me in the position that I was in, I suddenly lost all the support of all the guys I worked with.
Just because we don't see it doesn't mean that we don't picture it in our head. I never thought that I would have to deal with that type of call, and I was not prepared.
I remember the moment I was like, okay, I was up all night. It was just trauma after trauma after trauma. The novelty of the job wore off really quick.
They didn't offer any help. They said I needed to see a psychiatrist, that there was probably nothing wrong with me, that I was just being a baby about it.
I couldn't think of how to get help without ruining my job.
I know personally, on many occasions, that a police officer can go in and ask for help, and the chief will fire him.
They forced me to resign because they just could not understand how that could have affected me since I was just a dispatcher.
I just thought to myself, if I can't do this job, what can I do? What else? I put all the eggs in this basket. Who am I if I'm not a firefighter?
I have, 4 years till retirement, and I gotta be okay, and I gotta make it.
And so the lady who was in charge of